I used to do something in high school every 2 weeks before an exam. I wouldn't study. I'd tell myself, I have time, it's not that deep. But it was that deep. Because then it was 1 week before the exam. I was stressed out, anxious, realizing how behind I was, and only going over the easy stuff I already know and glossing over the hard parts. And guess what showed up in the exam? The hard parts. So if procrastination was about laziness, then why do ambitious students do it too? Why do students who desperately want good grades, genuinely care, know they'd benefit from starting earlier, still avoid studying? Think about it. You've had the notes for weeks. The exam date isn't a surprise. You know exactly what's going to happen if you don't prepare. And yet somehow you're watching YouTube videos about productivity instead of actually studying. The reason has nothing to do with discipline. And once you understand this, procrastination starts making a whole lot more sense. Most students think procrastination looks like this. I need to study. Nah, procrastinate. But that's not what's happening. There's actually 4 steps that got you here. A stimulus, an action, a feeling, and a behavior. Upcoming exam, that's the stimulus. The stimulus demands an action. You need to study for it. The action, needing to study, triggers a feeling. And then comes the behavior. You avoid. You scroll. You procrastinate. Anything except the thing itself. Now, here's the part most people never see. The feeling isn't random. It came from somewhere. Because your brain isn't reacting to the task itself. It's reacting to what the task means. And meaning comes from experience. I'll show you. 2 students can sit in front of the exact same test paper. One feels challenged, the other feels panic. Same paper, different emotion. Why? Because they aren't reacting to the paper. They're reacting to their history with papers like it. And somewhere along the way, your brain started collecting data. Maybe you revised for an entire weekend and still got 52%. Maybe you put your hand up in class and got laughed at. Maybe you were called smart your whole life and the first difficult subject shattered that identity. Maybe you learned that effort doesn't guarantee success. The event wasn't the problem. The conclusion was. What you made it mean about yourself was. Because after every experience, your brain asks, what does this mean? And then it answers, oh, I'm not smart enough. I'm always behind. Trying hard is pointless. If I fail again, people will see who I really am. Not because those statements are true, because your brain is trying to protect you. It wants certainty, so it takes a few painful experiences and turns them into rules. And this is where students get trapped. Because once a belief exists, you start acting as if it's true. If I believe effort won't help, why would I start early? If I believe I'll fail anyway, why would I give my best? If I believe studying leads to disappointment, avoidance suddenly starts making perfect sense. Do you see what's happening? Your belief from what happened in the past keeps feeding your actions today. It keeps making you procrastinate, which means something important. You do not overcome procrastination by arguing with yourself. You overcome procrastination by updating the evidence. Because since the beliefs came from an experience, they're changed by experience. That's why watching productivity videos doesn't work for very long, because your brain doesn't trust words. It trusts proof. So how do you create proof? Through what I call evidence sessions. Evidence that you can begin. Evidence that you can continue. Evidence that effort can lead somewhere. Evidence that the story you've been repeating isn't the whole story. This looks like setting a timer for 2 minutes and just starting. Finishing 1 question. Studying before you feel ready. Showing up on a day you normally wouldn't. The action itself isn't the point. The evidence is. Because every time you act differently, your brain is forced to reconsider the belief. And now every action becomes a vote, not for your grades, for your identity. And eventually, the evidence becomes impossible to ignore. And I never spoke about showing up perfectly, just consistently. Imperfect consistency will solidify a new identity faster than scattered perfection. And when you feel resistance, because you will, recognize that that's just the old self trying to reassume an old identity that it believes will keep you safe. You don't vote for that identity anymore. You're in control now. And that's when everything starts changing. Not when you become more motivated or more disciplined. When you stop treating old evidence as permanent truth. Because you were never a procrastinator. You were a person responding logically to a story your brain once created. And stories can be rewritten. See you Sunday.